He slapped my 6-year-old daughter across the face. At a family barbecue. In front of everyone. And my parents? They laughed. That was the moment I realized my family didn't just fail me. They failed my daughter. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I walked away. And I never looked back. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. I'll never forget the sound. It was sharp, loud, and then silence. My brother slapped my 6-year-old daughter across the face during our family barbecue and my parents laughed. They actually laughed. Hi, I'm Hailey Thomas and this is the moment I knew I had to walk away from the family I was born into, to protect the one I built. It started like any other Sunday. We were all at my parents' house, burgers on the grill, kids running around, and that fake kind of peace families put on for show. My daughter Lily was playing with her cousins, giggling and chasing bubbles. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't misbehaving. She was just happy. But apparently, happy was too loud for my brother Jason. He got up from his lawn chair, beer in hand, muttering something under his breath. I didn't catch it. I didn't even think to worry. Jason had always had a short fuse, but I never imagined he'd direct it at a child. At my child. He marched over to where Lily was running in circles, laughing, her little ponytail bouncing with each step. Then without a word, without a warning, he raised his hand and slapped her. The sound was like a gunshot in my chest. Lily froze mid-laugh, her tiny hand flying to her cheek. Her eyes filled with confusion before they filled with tears. And I just stood there for a second like my feet were cemented to the ground. I looked at her. Then I looked at him. Then I looked at my parents, desperate for anyone to step in, to say something, to show they were just as shocked and disgusted as I was. But instead, my mom chuckled. I swear to you, she chuckled. Like it was a funny little moment. Well, she said, maybe now she'll learn to use her inside voice. My dad didn't even look up from his plate. Kids need discipline sometimes, he muttered, like Jason slapping a first grader was the same thing as a gentle timeout. And Jason? He just turned around and went back to his chair like nothing happened. I rushed to Lily and scooped her into my arms. Her cheek was already red. She was sobbing into my shoulder, asking me what she did wrong. Nothing, baby, I told her. You didn't do anything wrong. But inside, I was shaking. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. Because I realized something in that moment, something that hurt more than the slap itself. This wasn't just about Jason. This was about all of them. The same parents who used to call me overly emotional when I cried as a kid, who told me to suck it up when I got bullied at school. The same parents who let Jason get away with everything from wrecking my car when we were teenagers to calling me a bad mom when I got divorced. They had always excused him, always defended him, and now they were laughing while he hit my child. I stood up, holding Lily tight, and I looked Jason in the eye. Touch my daughter again, I said, loud enough for the entire backyard to hear, and I will call the police. I don't care that you're my brother. He scoffed, rolling his eyes. Maybe if you'd actually discipline her, I wouldn't have to. That was it. I turned to my parents and said, you didn't protect me when I was little. I didn't realize until now that you never would. But I will protect her. Even if it means walking away from this entire family. I left. No goodbyes. No hugs. I just walked out with my daughter in my arms, both of us in tears for different reasons. The days that followed were a blur. My phone blew up with messages. My mom left a long voicemail about how family fights happen and how I was being dramatic. My dad texted me that I was making things worse and that I should just talk it out with Jason. But not one person said they were sorry. Not to me. Not to Lily. A few days later, they showed up at my apartment. My mom had a box of cupcakes and my dad stood behind her like he was just there for backup. I didn't open the door. Instead, I slid a piece of paper underneath. It said, when you're ready to take responsibility for what happened and apologize to my daughter, then we can talk. Until then, we're done. They stood there for a while. I watched them through the peephole. My mom knocked again, softer this time. My dad looked uncomfortable. But they left without saying a word. That was 5 months ago. Since then, I've blocked Jason. I've cut contact with my parents. I've cried more times than I can count. But I've also slept better than I ever have. Lily laughs freely now. She's not scared. And neither am I. For the first time in my life, I've learned that blood doesn't make a family. Love does. Safety does. Respect does. And I won't ever let anyone, even the people who raise me, take that away from us again. So to anyone out there who thinks they have to put up with toxic family just because they're family, please know. You don't owe anyone access to your life if they can't treat you or your children with basic human decency. You're allowed to walk away. And sometimes, walking away is the most loving thing you can do. Time stopped. Lily clutched her cheek and stared at me, eyes wide with confusion and betrayal. My baby, hurt, humiliated, in front of everyone. And me? I froze. Not because I didn't care. God, no. But because my brain couldn't process it. Couldn't put together the fact that Jason, my own brother, had just hit my daughter. The same man who once held her in the hospital when she was only a few hours old, who called her Little Bean and swore he'd always be there to protect her. Now he was the one who hurt her. My eyes darted to my parents. My last hope. I was desperate for something, anything. Some kind of outrage. Shock. A firm "what the hell, Jason" from my dad. A gasp and a protective hug from my mom. Something that would tell me I wasn't crazy. That this moment was as horrifying as it felt. But all I got was silence. And then my mother chuckled. She laughed. She waved her hand like it was nothing and said, well, maybe she'll learn to use her inside voice now. My dad didn't even lift his eyes from his burger. He just muttered under his breath, kids today need a little discipline. And suddenly I was a child again. I was 7 years old, crying in the hallway because Jason had pushed me down the stairs and my mom told me to stop being dramatic. I was 13, sobbing because Jason had smashed my laptop during a tantrum and my dad said, well, maybe you shouldn't have left it out. I was 23, newly divorced with a newborn, asking for help and hearing my parents whisper to each other, she made her bed. Let her lie in it. I stood there now, heart pounding, tears burning behind my eyes, and I realized they were never going to protect me. Not me, not my daughter. We were never the ones worth defending. Jason had always been the golden child. The charming one. The boy who got away with everything. The one who failed upward. No matter what he did, arrests, DUIs, cheating scandals, they always found a way to excuse it. Boys will be boys. He's under stress. He didn't mean it. And now they were excusing him again. Even after he slapped a 6-year-old across the face. My 6-year-old. My whole world. Lily was still in shock. Her little shoulders trembling, eyes filling up like she was trying so hard to be brave, but her cheek was bright red and her lip was starting to quiver. I knelt down next to her, touched her face gently, and whispered, it's okay, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. But my hands were shaking. And inside I was breaking. Jason was already back in his chair like nothing happened. Like he hadn't just laid his hands on a child. He picked up his drink and laughed with one of our cousins. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab the lawn chair and throw it across the yard. I wanted someone to see what was happening. Someone to stand with me. But everyone looked away. It was like they didn't want to get involved. Or maybe they agreed with him. Maybe they thought I was too soft as a parent. That Lily was too loud. That it was somehow acceptable for a grown man to hit a little girl for being excited about chasing bubbles. I stood up slowly, holding Lily's hand. I looked at Jason, at his smug face, his complete lack of remorse. I walked right up to him, my voice shaking but firm, and said, touch my child again and I will press charges. He didn't even flinch. Maybe if you disciplined her once in a while I wouldn't have to, he sneered. That was it. That was my line. I turned to my parents. You let him do this. You laughed. Do you even realize what you're teaching Lily right now? That it's okay when a man hits her as long as it's just family? As long as it's a joke? Not in my house. Not in my life. My mother's face twisted into that same tight-lipped expression she's worn my whole life whenever I dared speak up. You're always making things bigger than they are, Hailey. No, I said. You've always made me feel small so you didn't have to face the truth. And with that I took Lily's hand and we walked out of the backyard. Past the grill. Past the table full of food. Past the people who pretended they didn't hear anything. No one followed us. No one tried to stop us. And honestly, that hurt more than anything. That night, I held Lily in bed as she cried. Not because her cheek hurt anymore, but because she didn't understand why her uncle, someone who once brought her balloons and called her his princess, had hurt her. And why Grandma laughed. What do you say to that? I didn't have an answer. So I just held her and said, I will never let anyone hurt you again. Not even my own family. Because that's what I finally realized, being family doesn't give someone the right to hurt you. And just because someone raised you doesn't mean they deserve access to your children. My parents called. I didn't answer. Jason texted. I blocked him. I wrote a letter the next morning. Not for them, but for myself. A reminder. We are not going back. Not until they understand what they did. Not until they apologize to Lily. It's been months. Lily's laughter has returned. She's loud. And free. And safe. And me? I don't regret walking away. I regret staying as long as I did. Something snapped inside me. It wasn't loud or dramatic like in the movies. It was quiet, like a string inside me had been stretched too tight for too long, and finally, silently it just broke. For years I'd swallowed every insult, every passive-aggressive jab, every comment that made me feel like less of a daughter, less of a woman, less of a mother. Jason was always the golden boy, the charmer, the center of every room, even when he didn't deserve to be. I remember when he got arrested for drunk driving in college, my parents bailed him out, no questions asked. They called it a youthful mistake. When he cheated on his fiancée, they said she was too clingy anyway. When he lost his job for blowing off deadlines, that company never appreciated him. But me? I was always too sensitive, too emotional, overreacting, the single mom who made bad choices, the one who brought drama. Even when I did everything right, paid my bills, raised a kind daughter, stayed away from conflict, I was never good enough. Still, I tried. God, I tried so hard. Every family dinner, every phone call, every forced smile. I showed up hoping maybe this time they'd see me, respect me, love me for who I actually was. Not just tolerate me. Not just whisper about me when I left the room. And I had been okay with being ignored, overlooked, even pitied. I had made peace with shrinking myself just to keep the illusion of a close family alive. But that illusion shattered the second Jason laid his hands on my daughter. Lily was still crying, trembling in my arms. Her face red not just from the slap, but from the shame of being hurt in front of people who were supposed to protect her. Her small voice whispered, "Why did Uncle Jason do that?" And I didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense to a 6-year-old. Because how do you explain to a child that sometimes the people we call family are the very ones who cause us the most pain? That's when it hit me. If I stayed silent now, if I did what I'd always done and kept the peace, then I'd be telling Lily that it was okay. That she didn't matter. That he could hurt her. And I'd still smile and serve dessert like nothing happened. And I wouldn't let that happen. Not to her. I turned slowly and walked up to Jason. He was lounging in his chair like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just hit a child and then gaslight the entire family into thinking it was fine. I stood right in front of him, shaking with anger but speaking in a steady voice. "Touch my child again," I said, "and you'll answer to the police." His face twitched. For a moment he looked surprised. Then he let out this laugh, a smug, patronizing laugh, and said, "She was out of control, Hailey. Someone had to step in since you won't." I don't remember the last time I was that close to slapping someone myself. But I didn't. I didn't need to. Because right then I realized something even more powerful. I had nothing left to lose. I picked Lily up. Her arms wrapped around my neck tightly, like she knew we were done here. I held her, kissed her forehead, and turned to everyone around us, my parents, cousins, the family members who pretended they didn't see anything. Who just kept eating and chatting like we were the problem, not the abuse happening right in front of them. "I'm done," I said. Not just to Jason, but to all of them. Not just with today. With all of this. With pretending this is normal. With acting like you're a safe place for me or for her. We're done. My mom opened her mouth, probably to tell me I was overreacting again. My dad stood awkwardly, still chewing like his burger was the most important thing in the world. But I didn't wait for them to respond. I turned and walked away. Every step toward the gate felt like freedom. My legs were shaking. My heart was pounding. But I didn't stop. No one followed us. Not one person ran after me to check on Lily. Not one person shouted Jason down. Not one person tried to stop us. And honestly, that was all I needed to know. The silence confirmed it. We were never really welcome. We were just tolerated. Just another box to check at family events. Me, the struggling sister. Lily, the fatherless child. We were always just the background noise to Jason's spotlight. But no more. That night, I held Lily as she slept. Her cheek was still a little swollen. She looked so small and peaceful and so fragile. And I made myself a promise. She would never again have to wonder if the people around her would protect her. She would never have to doubt her worth. She would never learn to normalize abuse and call it love. I blocked Jason's number the next morning. I muted my parents' group chat. When my mom left me a voicemail saying I was being dramatic, I deleted it without even listening all the way through. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being a mother. And being a mother means doing what's right, even when it's hard. Even when it means walking away from people you spent your whole life trying to please. Especially when they hurt your child. I didn't answer their calls. Not once. The first call came the morning after the barbecue. I was still cleaning dried tears off Lily's cheeks when my phone lit up with Mom. I let it ring. A minute later, it buzzed with a voicemail. Then another. Then a text. Then Dad called. For 2 full weeks, my phone didn't stop. I'd wake up to a wall of messages, voicemails from my mom telling me I was being dramatic, that family fights happen, that I should get over it before I made things worse. She said Lily probably didn't even remember it, that I was making a big deal out of something that wasn't personal. My dad sent long, exhausting texts about how hard parenting is and how Jason was just trying to help. Help? By slapping a 6-year-old? I reread that part 3 times, like maybe I'd misunderstood it. I hadn't. They were rewriting the story, shaping it into something that made them feel better. Something that made me the problem. Not once did the word sorry appear. Not once did anyone ask how Lily was doing. Not once did Jason reach out, not with regret, not with explanation, not even with the fake kind of apology people give to save face. He didn't think he did anything wrong. In his mind, he was still the hero, still the only one willing to discipline my out-of-control child. It was like watching a familiar play unfold. The gaslighting, the guilt-tripping, the slow and subtle way they tried to shift the blame back onto me. And I'll admit, for a few days it almost worked. I kept second-guessing myself. Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe if I'd spoken softer, or stayed longer, or explained more, they would have seen it differently. But then I'd look at Lily. And I'd remember the way she held her cheek. The way her face crumpled. The way she asked me in that tiny voice that shattered my heart, "What did I do wrong, Mommy?" That's what brought me back to center every time. She didn't do anything wrong. She was a kid. A joyful, playful, slightly loud kid at a backyard party. And she was punished for existing out loud by someone who should have protected her. And even worse, everyone else just let it happen. So no, I wasn't being dramatic. I was being a mother. The kind of mother I never had. 2 weeks after the slap, a knock came at the door. It was late afternoon. Lily was watching cartoons on the couch, wrapped in her favorite blanket. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and there they were. My parents. My mother was holding a bakery box with those little pastel cupcakes she always brings when she's trying to smooth something over. My dad stood next to her, hands in his jacket pockets, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. Neither of them looked angry. Just rehearsed. I didn't open the door. They knocked again, softly. My mom called through the wood, "Hailey, honey, can we please talk?" I stood silently behind the door, heart racing. I wasn't scared. I was just bracing for it. The performance. The guilt. The minimization. The offers to start fresh without any actual acknowledgement of what they had done or failed to do. And I was done with all of that. I grabbed a piece of paper from the table, scribbled a note, folded it once, and slid it under the door. It said, "When you're ready to treat my daughter with love and respect, we can talk. Until then, we're not your punching bags." I watched their feet from the shadow under the door. They didn't move for a few seconds. Then I peeked through the peephole. They looked stunned. My mom's mouth hung open slightly, like she couldn't believe I'd drawn a line. My dad blinked hard and scratched the back of his neck like he wasn't sure what to do next. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to cave. Open the door. Let them take control again. But I didn't. Because this time was different. They weren't used to boundaries, especially not from me. I'd spent most of my life being the easy one. The quiet one. The one who apologized just to keep things calm, even when I wasn't wrong. The one who came back, no matter how badly they hurt me. But this time, I had someone else to protect. And I realized that protecting Lily also meant protecting me because I can't raise a confident, safe, loved daughter if I'm still playing the role of the family scapegoat. Eventually, my parents left. I watched them walk back to their car in silence. The box of cupcakes still in my mom's hands. They didn't leave it behind. I think that part hurt more than it should have. They didn't leave anything behind, not even a note. Just more silence. more emotional vacancy. But in that silence I found peace. Because I had finally chosen us. Me and Lily. I had chosen truth over tradition. Healing over habit. And I know it might take months or maybe forever for them to realize what they did. For Jason to grow up. For my parents to admit that standing by and saying nothing was just as bad as the slap itself. But that's not my job anymore. My job is to raise a daughter who knows her worth. Who understands that love doesn't come with bruises or shaming. Who knows that when someone hurts you, you have every right to walk away, even if that someone is family. Especially if that someone is family. And I'll keep that promise to her for the rest of my life. It's been 5 months. Sometimes that still feels unbelievable to say out loud. 5 whole months since I cut ties with my own family. 5 months since I walked away from people I spent my entire life trying to please, trying to love, trying to forgive over and over again. I won't lie, there are days I miss them. Not the way they treated me, no. I don't miss the judgment, the eye rolls, the subtle digs at my parenting or my independence. I don't miss walking on eggshells or biting my tongue just to keep the peace. But I do miss the good moments. Or what felt like good moments at the time. I miss the sound of my mom humming in the kitchen during the holidays. I miss the way my dad used to sneak Lily cookies when he thought I wasn't looking. I miss the illusion of a big, happy family, the photographs where we all smiled on cue, the group texts filled with holiday plans and birthday reminders. I miss believing that we were a team. That we had each other's backs. That no matter what, we were family. But illusions are dangerous. They keep you tied to people who hurt you, hoping one day they'll change. They make you excuse behavior you'd never tolerate from anyone else because they're blood or they mean well or it's just how they are. I used to live inside that illusion. I used to wear it like armor, convincing myself that if I just tried harder, they'd finally see me. Finally love me the way I needed to be loved. Finally protect me and my daughter the way family is supposed to. But that day when Jason slapped Lily and my parents laughed, I saw the truth. And I haven't been able to unsee it since. Now when I look at Lily, I see a different child. She's lighter somehow. Brighter. She doesn't flinch when I mention birthdays or family gatherings anymore because now family means something different to us. She sleeps more soundly at night. Her laugh? It's louder. It fills the whole house, unbothered, unfiltered. Like she knows finally that she is safe. That she is loved without question, without condition. I didn't know what peace felt like until I created it for myself. Until I stopped answering calls that left me feeling smaller. Until I stopped entertaining apologies that never came. Until I stopped showing up for people who wouldn't do the same for me. That's what I've learned, what I wish someone had told me sooner. Family isn't about blood. It's about safety. It's about respect. It's about love that doesn't come with bruises or silence or guilt. Love that doesn't ask you to choose between your dignity and your seat at the table. Love that doesn't punish your children for being children. Jason still believes he did nothing wrong. I can see it in the way he talks about me through mutual friends, the way he says I overreacted, or that I'm raising a brat. He wears his lack of remorse like a badge of honor, as if being emotionally numb is some kind of strength. My parents? I think they're still telling themselves a different version of the story. One where I'm the ungrateful daughter who couldn't let a little slap go. One where I tore the family apart over a misunderstanding. One where their silence wasn't complicity, but staying neutral. But I know the truth. And more importantly, so does Lily. She knows that her mom stood up for her. That her mom said enough when no one else would. That her mom chose her over tradition, over expectation, over appearances. And in the end, that's all that matters. To the moms out there who are watching this and nodding through tears, I see you. To the women torn between keeping the peace and protecting their children, I understand. To the daughters who are afraid to disappoint the people who raised them, even when those people cause pain, I get it. It's terrifying to walk away from the only family you've ever known. Terrifying to sit in the quiet after you cut ties, wondering if you've done the right thing. Terrifying to explain to your child why certain people don't come around anymore. But let me tell you what's more terrifying. Raising a daughter who thinks being hurt is normal. Who learns that forgiveness means pretending it didn't happen. Who confuses fear with loyalty. Who believes that love is supposed to hurt. I couldn't let that be Lily's story. And if you're listening to this and feeling like it might be your story, please hear me when I say you're not ruining your family. You're protecting it. You're not being dramatic. You're being brave. You're not weak for walking away. You're strong for recognizing what needs to be left behind. And no, you're not alone. There are so many of us out here quietly rebuilding, quietly healing, quietly choosing peace over pain, love over loyalty, truth over tradition. And when we find each other, even through stories like this, we get louder. We get stronger. So if no one else has said this to you lately, let me be the first. You're doing the right thing. You're not too sensitive. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You are a mother. And sometimes being a mother means drawing the line everyone else is too scared to draw. So if you're standing at that same crossroads, wondering whether to stay silent or finally choose yourself and your child, I hope my story gives you the courage to choose peace, to choose boundaries, to choose you. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. If this story moved you or made you feel seen, please don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more real, raw, and powerful stories because no one should ever feel alone in their pain. And if you've got a story of your own, drop it in the comments. We're listening, and we're healing together. Thank you for being here. Broken Heart, Red Heart.